Welcome back to another episode of Keep Austin Safe, the podcast where we take you behind the scenes of the Austin Police Department. I'm your host, Jose Mendez, and today we're sitting down with Detective Sean Cole-Winston. Now, he's currently assigned to our downtown Austin Rapid Response Team, also known as our DARRT team. Now, Detective's been with the Austin Police Department for 12 years, and he's been assigned to our DARRT team for just about 6 months now. So thanks for joining us.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So we have a lot of good info to get into. We're going to look at what the DARRT team does, how they're structured downtown, but more specifically, what's happening downtown Austin. So starting with a little introduction, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you guys do.
Yeah, well, I'm Detective Cole-Winston. I've been with the department, like you said, for 12 years. What's funny is I worked downtown for, I want to say 3 years. So I'm well versed in working downtown. Actually, before that, I worked downtown as a door guy. When I was working in special education, for part-time, I worked there from, I want to say roughly 7 years downtown. Friday and Saturdays from like 10 to 2. And so that was kind of my introduction to APD and how APD did things downtown. It was a really cool experience. I had a lot of cool officers that came up to me, very helpful, very kind, very, like I said, just very insightful. It kind of helped me with my decision to want to join APD. Once I made that decision, like I said, that was 12 years ago, and now I'm here. I've been a detective now for 2 years.
Okay.
I've been with the DARRT team when we were Risk, and then we changed to DARRT, but now we're officially the real DARRT. So we've been rocking and rolling for the past 6 months. And so, yeah, I really enjoy it, and I really like my position. Like I said before, I work downtown, and I feel like I'm back home. So
Great. Now, when we look at DARRT, Downtown Austin Rapid Response Team, what does that entail? What does your work look like on a day-to-day basis?
We do a lot of good work. There's a lot of investigations that we're a part of that is prevalent to what's going on in the city. We deal with anything from drugs to burglaries to pickpocketing.
Okay.
To theft of person. So that's kind of what we're doing now, and that's kind of the main initiative and focus that we're focusing on right now.
Great. Now, for those that don't know, can you explain what DTAC stands for and what it consists of?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, DTAC is pretty much the downtown area. That's pretty much anywhere from 35 over to, I think, Mopac now. I think the line's actually changed. Downtown, I worked there for 3 years. It was really nice to work downtown. You could do anything from riding in your vehicle to riding bikes to riding ATVs to riding in the Polaris. These are other ways for us to be able to maneuver downtown, because downtown is not your typical area. A lot of areas are a lot more spread out where you do need your vehicles in order to patrol. We're here, a crime could happen right in front of you. So, a crime could happen right around the block. So how do you get there as fast and efficient as you can, especially with the traffic the way it is downtown? And some ways to do that is via bike, via Polaris, via ATVs. Typically on the nights that are busy, like the Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, we normally, when I used to work there, we would normally sit or stand there and just kind of not necessarily wait, but respond to crimes via foot. You would have stuff happening right in front of you, and so you have to be prepared at all times.
Yeah, and I'm sure we still have the walking beat and everything down there. Now, I know we like to use acronyms for just about everything, but for those that don't know, DTAC, it's very simple. It's Downtown Area Command, and it's really a centralized kind of location, tasked with for some might think it's a completely different style of policing. From you have your tourists, you have your visitors, you have your students. I mean, you have an influx of people that kind of rotates every weekend that come through downtown to kind of experience everything Austin has to offer. So again, it is one of those very centralized kind of locations, and it's just a completely different style of policing that some people aren't really used to.
Yeah, it's a different style of policing. And it's real fun. I mean, you're in situations where you're around and you see a crime right in front of you, and
Yeah.
you go and you have to handle that situation. And then what's funny is you go back to your post, and as you're walking back, people are asking for like pictures or asking questions about like what the best spot to eat is and stuff like that. And it's like you're dusting yourself off and you're walking back. So I think that the downtown officers do an excellent job in being able to compartmentalize what's going on and not carrying things and carrying that stress with them, and still being able to be a good steward of Austin and a good representation of what Austin is and what Austin truly does
for sure
as a city. So
never a boring moment in
never
downtown.
a boring moment.
So that takes me to my next question. How does DTAC differ from other areas and sectors of Austin?
Downtown is very unique in that you have a lot of people that live in a small, it's almost like mini Manhattan in a way. You have a lot of people that live in a very small, tight-knit area. You have a lot of buildings that are high, a lot of residences that live in these high buildings, where when you're working in other areas, like South or let's say North or even on the East Side, it's a lot more spread out. Here, it's unique in the way that not only are you dealing with the people that live here and the people that are, just the residences of Austin, you're also dealing with people that are coming in from other places. You have people from Uganda to Russia to Ethiopia to Canada. One of the main touristy times is during South by Southwest, where you get people from everywhere. But that's just a normal thing here in Austin. So not only are you working with the citizens of Austin, but you're also working with people that aren't familiar with, Austin or Texas. I think that, like I said before, the officers do a good job in being good stewards and showing people, not necessarily the ropes, but showing people, being good citizens and telling them, hey, like this is a good place to eat, or hey, you might want to watch out for this. A lot of the things that I get from tourists is, hey, officers here are really, really nice. And that's one thing that I'm really happy about. So not only are you dealing with like the minutia of, everything that's going on downtown when it comes to the violence, the pickpocketing, or whatever the case may be, but you're also dealing with having to make sure that you're a good representation for the city of Austin.
Yeah, I mean, most visitors are going to just naturally come downtown, kind of visit everything that we have downtown. I mean, that's most of where the entertainment district is, and things like that. So it is just natural to kind of having to deal with people that are not from Texas or not from the Austin area. But one thing I want to hit back on is going back to the differences between, let's say, DTAC officers and other officers in other parts of the city. You had mentioned sometimes crimes are taking place right in front of you, and you have little time to react, let's say. So one of the big things that I noticed in working in DTAC for about 3 or 4 years was anywhere else in the city, you get your call, you start driving to your call, you start coordinating a plan in your head, what you're going to do, how you're going to handle this situation or this call, and you have time, right? Whereas DTAC, when you're working downtown and a crime takes place right in front of you, you have to be quick in your response, and you have to act quickly, appropriately, and within law. So a lot of times that's what I kind of saw, what's kind of separated newer officers from more experienced officers, because again, that time doesn't exist, especially when something is taking place right in front of you.
Yeah. And what's fun about that is that I had 3 years downtown, but I felt like it aged me as an officer several years. And the reason is because you learn patience. And you also learn how to really use your your verbal skills in order to de-escalate situations a lot better. And so I think downtown is good for a lot of officers if you want to experience policing in a different way. Working downtown is a real good way to do that.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. Downtown is obviously always going to require some kind of patience, right? You're going to have cell phones in your face when something takes place. You have a lot of people, yelling at you, screaming at you for various reasons, whatever, but it does require a lot of patience, I would say that. So what are some of the safety challenges that are unique to downtown?
Some of the safety challenges unique to downtown are, we do have these high rises. So sometimes, like, if there's a situation or an emergency, it might be a little harder to get to certain areas. In the high rises, that's, one of the things that I've come across when I was working downtown. Another thing that we kind of come across is the traffic for some reason
Yeah.
and pedestrians crossing and not realizing there's a car coming for whatever reason, stuff like that. And then some of the other challenges are people not necessarily understanding the laws when it comes to certain things that they could carry and or do and or bring downtown,
Yeah.
especially when they are trying to enter certain areas or certain establishments.
Yeah.
And the other issues is that, sometimes people have a little bit too much fun and, you know, that can spill over to, some type of physical confrontations that happen downtown.
Yeah.
But that's what we're here for. We're here to make sure that everything is taken care of and everybody could go home safe or safe, as safe as possible. So
Yeah. And what would you say about the large crowds? When you're looking at a special event season, like let's say South by Southwest or any spring festival event, and you look at thousands of people that are going to be down on 6th Street, and you look around and, officers are vastly outnumbered, obviously. But is that a safety concern?
I will say that there have been times where I'm on 6th Street with just me and my partner at the time, and we're like, wow, like, this is going to be interesting if something happens. But for some reason, we're always able to maintain safety. We're always able to maintain some sort of um, the policing's still the number one policy that we have downtown and making sure that everyone's safe. So if we're outnumbered, but we have to do what we have to do in order to make sure that the masses are safe. And so that's kind of what it is. But yeah, the crowds, it's a different animal.
Yeah,
It's
they can
definitely
get
a
pretty
different
big there.
animal.
Now, what can visitors expect when they come to downtown Austin?
Downtown Austin is a lovely area. I've always liked the downtown area. I feel like it has a life of its own, and then it's kind of fun to see how Austin has grown, and how it continues to grow. It's almost like seeing, like, not a human grow, but something grow.
Mhm.
Some type of plant grow, and you're proud of it. I've been here for over 20 years, and just to see the progress of downtown and how it's grown and just the amount of people that come down is just tremendous. But to answer your question, you could expect to have a lot of fun. There are a lot of establishments you could choose. You're not bound to one. You have comedy theaters, you have music theaters, you have all these different things that, you know, um, take your pick,
Yeah.
whatever you want to do. The food is excellent downtown.
Yeah.
There are certain restaurants that, if you ask me personally to stay away from, I'll let you know which ones they are offline. But we have excellent restaurants here. If you stay downtown, you have Lady Bird Lake right there if you want to go for a run. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
There's just so much to do in the downtown Austin area. You could go kayaking. It's like right there.
Yeah.
Ride a bike, rent a bike, ride a bike. What I'm doing and what I'm expressing to you does not express the full extent of what downtown is. It's just really a
Yeah.
feeling. It's really a vibe more so.
Yeah.
That's what.
And a lot of people, they gravitate towards 6th Street, right?
Yeah.
They hear about 6th Street. Most of the people that have never come to Austin,
Yeah.
they gravitate towards 6th Street to experience that. For the longest time, we've had 6th Street closed off, and people can kind of just go about in the street, walking along, kind of give that big space, that open feel.
Yeah.
I know we've kind of put a stop to that at certain points on certain days of the week, but is that case by case basis? Do you know, or is it just kind of every weekend? Traffic's flowing now, or is it really case by case?
From what I saw, it's case by case.
Okay.
Sometimes if the crowds get too large, you have to shut the streets down. You just have to, just for
Okay.
safety concerns. But it's case by case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what trends are we currently seeing in downtown crime? What crimes are going up, and is anything going down?
Yeah. As far as trends that we're seeing the fights, the assaults. So that's going to be a trend that's there. You could probably see those online. Um, Burglaries are going up a little bit in some of the businesses.
Okay.
And one of the big things that the main focus is that we are focusing on is pickpocketing. For some reason, that has skyrocketed. And it's a person's crime. It's a theft of person. It's really intrusive, and it's just a bad time for the people that get affected by or that get hit by that, and it affects people in very negatively. So that's the main thing that we're seeing right now downtown.
So now staying on pickpocketing, because now we're going to kind of focus on pickpocketing because, like you mentioned, it is there's a rise in pickpocketing. Are there specific hotspots or types of events where you see a spike in pickpocketing?
Well, the spikes that you do see are like some of the big events, like ACL or even like a South by. But you'll just be surprised though. I mean, it ebbs and flows. There's some weekends where you have a lot of pickpocketing, and there's some weekends where not as much, but still, still enough. Pickpocketing in general shouldn't be a thing. It should never happen. But there, like I said, there are some weekends where, they're a little more, it spikes, and there's some weekends where they don't. But
Yeah.
we're just trying to, put an end to pickpocketing in general.
Now, are we seeing certain tactics used by these people or groups of people or whoever is pickpocketing? Are we seeing certain tactics, and what items are being targeted?
Yeah, the main items that are being targeted right now are really wallets, but the big thing's cell phones.
Okay.
There are a lot of different tactics that are being used now. There are groups of people that are going around and kind of getting their way into people's phones. One thing that I'm telling people now is that if you do have a code, like a code on your phone, make sure to look around because people are looking at you, and people are like looking at you and spotting you the whole night. And you might just think you're just putting in your code, but someone's looking at you. So
Yeah.
you know how you go to the gas station, it says protect your
Yeah.
your pin. I think we should start doing that with our cell phones, especially if your Face ID is not working in the clubs.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are different tactics. I'll give you one. There was this case I was working on. This gentleman came and visited from will be Uber, non-specific, but some other area in Texas. And he came down with his girlfriend, and he said him and his girlfriend had a couple beverages, which is fun. He said that at the end of the night, two girls approached his girlfriend and said, "Hey, your man was hitting on me all night." They ended up getting in some type of not altercation, but some type of argument.
Okay.
And the girls ended up separating her from her boyfriend, saying, "It's okay, don't worry about him." While a gentleman walked over to him and said, "Hey, don't worry about it, bro. Don't worry about it. Like, it's okay. Like, don't worry about it." So separated the two. He said 5 minutes later, he felt like he woke up. So there was no assault or anything. He said he woke up and by then his cell phone was gone. So it seems like in that particular situation, it was like a group of people that kind of spotted this couple, made sure to create a conflict and separate them, and then take the cell phone.
Yeah. So it seems kind of like a distraction too. I would imagine most of them might be focusing on maybe creating the distraction or getting you away from a certain area that you've been all night, or just kind of targeting those that might be a little more heavily intoxicated than some.
Yes.
So again, it was one of those things where you just got to kind of be on guard.
You have to be on guard, and you're seeing different tactics like that. There are other groups that are coming in and going into bars, and the tactic you see commonly is, and I think this is where making sure you're observing all things, where people would have their cell phone in their back pocket.
Yeah.
And people just come and see that and bump into them. "I'm sorry, take the cell phone." One of the main reasons why the cell phone is so important is because before they would take the cell phone and sell the cell phone.
Yeah.
But you have to think about what's on a cell phone now.
Yeah.
All our banking information, all our information in general. If someone has your code, you're pretty much done. In that particular situation that I talked about, when he realized that his cell phone was gone, he said it wasn't even 2 hours, and they took all his money out of his banking account, all of his money out of his business account, and they were trying to get into his retirement. And he said that was easily 6 figures that they were trying to get into.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, we rely heavily on the cell phone, and most of our personal information is in a cell phone. And then on top of that, all of our passwords are typically saved because, we don't want to go through each app and have to put our password in again and again. So we save those passwords and poof. your bank accounts are gone and things like that. So it is very important to make sure that our cell phones aren't sticking out of our back pocket.
Of course, yeah.
But what would you offer in that situation? What's a good place for them?
I make so not what I do, but I would just typically just put them as far in your pocket as you can.
Front pockets, right?
Yeah, front pockets. Of course, you could fill that a lot easier. If you carry a purse or some type of bag, keep it in your purse or bag. Make sure that your bag is secure on you at all times.
Yeah.
Make sure it's always zipped. Just stuff like that. But like I said, the main trend that we have been seeing is people would have the phone in the back pocket, and we know what the phones are. Not all of them fit in the back pockets.
Yeah,
and so they're just sticking out, and there you go.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. It's still the cell phone.
So there you have it. Keep your phones in your front pocket and keep your purses zipped up.
Keep them zipped up.
Easy enough.
Easy enough.
So now, is APD doing anything to try to combat this type of crime?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do undercover operations in order to make sure to spot certain things. But the main thing that we're doing right now is just education.
Okay.
The main thing is educating people, making sure that they're aware. We all know that pickpockets exist, but sometimes you just need to see it over and over and over to realize, hey, wait a minute, like this is a thing and this is a thing here. It's not necessarily saying that Austin is a uber violent city. It's not saying that, but it's just being aware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
And making sure you're good. So we're going to start putting posters up. We're going to start putting stickers up. We're going to start doing things to just make sure that people see stuff. So if you see, you're like, oh yeah, by the way, people are pickpocketing. And so you're able to, watch your six, as they say. That was a campaign that we're going to come up with, meaning watch behind you, but also watch the people you're with. Make sure you're not, too intoxicated. And let's say if your friend is, feeling a particular way, make sure that you have their best interests and make sure that they're protected. Make sure that all their belongings are still with them.
Yeah.
So.
And from my understanding, these new signs that are going to be coming out, across downtown areas, in certain spots, on 6th Street or whatnot, is it going to deter pickpocketing? Maybe not. However, it's going to serve as a reminder. It's basically, hey, this kind of crime has been occurring. This is a spot where it typically occurs, and it's just a reminder that, hey, be vigilant. Know your surroundings, be aware of your surroundings, watch your stuff, make sure all your items are secure. So that's what that's for our understanding.
Yeah, that's what that's for. And then what we're doing is we're also putting the signs on some of the establishments, the drinking establishments, indoor restaurants. So I think that it would be somewhat of a deterrent too, because someone could walk in and be like, wait a minute, like there's awareness here, so I don't think that I don't want to do that here, because people are going to be a little more aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that even like having this conversation and having some of the campaigns that we're doing as far as the stuff on social media and stuff that we're doing, I think it's just going to bring a lot more awareness. So not only is it going to deter, but it's also going to bring that sense of, oh yeah, let me make sure everything is on me.
Yeah. So. For sure. Now, what type of advice would you give somebody to prevent them from becoming a victim of pickpocketing or any crime in general?
Yeah. I mean, the main thing is be aware of your surroundings.
Biggest thing.
That's the biggest thing. If you're with your friends, make sure your friends are safe also. Make sure that your belongings, are secure on you. Make sure they're in a spot where you could feel them, as opposed to, like I said, the back pocket. That the reason I say back pocket is because that's the number one area where I look and I'm like, why is your phone sticking?
You see it all the time.
Like, why is the phone sticking out? But make sure it's in an area where you can't really see anything, or like just make sure it's secure. Make sure your zipper zip. Make sure it's secure.
Yeah.
And that's really that. Like I said, like these are person crimes, but at the same time, like. It doesn't take that much effort to steal it if it's easily accessible.
Yeah. Now, if somebody does become a victim of pickpocketing, what's the best way to report that?
Mm-hmm. It depends on the situation. So let's say it happens right in your presence and you see the person right there. If there's an officer, especially downtown, there's officers everywhere. Point them out, say, hey, there's the person that took my stuff, and call officers. If it happened 5 minutes prior, make sure to call 911, especially if the person's possibly still in the area. Okay. That's very important. There are a lot of cases, though, where, the next day they're like, wait, where's my cell phone? I think it's stolen. And in that particular situation, I would say call 311.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, as we prepare for Spring Festival, what precautions does APD take to ensure everybody's safety, especially, the amount of visitors we have coming into town? How are they able to feel confident and safe downtown?
Mhm. Yeah, when I first became an officer, I was always well, before I was an officer, I was like, well, wait a minute, there's a lot of people. How do officers what do they do in order to make sure people are safe? And then after I became an officer, I was like, oh, that's what they do. We make sure that we're 100% staffed. We make sure that there's ample overtime for people to come in and work more. We have cameras everywhere. Not going to tell people where they are, but we have cameras everywhere. And one thing that I saw in the past couple of years is now not only do we have cameras everywhere, but we have drones everywhere too, which was
Yeah,
kind of pretty cool to
yeah,
see.
for sure.
So if you say, wow, like no one's around, no one can see, we see everything.
Yeah.
And that's the cool part about knowing that, in my line of work. Being an officer is like, yeah, like we're all protected, and
Yeah.
so that's the extra steps that we do take, and then we have, the amount of resources that we have to make sure that people are safe is it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah. I mean, some people are unaware that we have a very sophisticated, high-tech surveillance kind of thing going on in the city, and some people don't realize, like, hey, how'd you know,
Yeah.
I did that or whatnot. Just know, yes, they have a very good camera system. We have that runs 24/7. Operators are behind those cameras in real time, so and they're able to direct officers to those types of crimes when they're in progress or when they just occur. We can always rewind, go back, track people down. So just keep that in mind. If keep that in mind if you're somebody that's coming down, especially during our peak seasons, and are capable of committing these types of crimes against persons.
Contrary to popular belief, there's no facial recognition. So we're not doing that. We're just basing it off of making sure everyone's safe. And if there's a crime that is occurring, we're making sure that we're able to capture that crime and do our due diligence to investigate that crime.
Yeah. Now, I quickly want to hit on open carry laws, just real general, because we do have a open carry a law here in Texas, and in Austin. With our downtown entertainment district, it's known that weapons are on 6th Street, right? So, what kind of advice would you give people that are coming from out of state, outside of Austin or whatnot, coming downtown, and are potentially trying to get into some of these bars with weapons?
Well, I'm not giving legal advice, so I'll just say that first thing. But um, in Texas, entering a establishment that is considered a bar or 51% with the red sign is considered a felony. So, like I said, I'm not here to give legal advice, but just be aware of that. As far as people have this misconception that Texas you could just carry willy nilly. Like that's not the case. So, like I said, I'm not here to give legal advice, but at the same time, just know that certain areas that you enter would, bring charges upon you that are that's a felony. So,
Yeah. And just from my experience downtown, I feel like the businesses, the bars themselves are doing a better job of having the door guy check for weapons and things like that. But just know that if you do carry a weapon into a bar, I mean, you're looking at a potential unlawful carrying of a weapon charge or something, and you can be arrested at that point in time. But just keep that in mind. Yes, we have an open carry law here in the state of Texas. However, it's not the wild, wild west, and so we would encourage people most of the time to keep your weapons in a safe place, keep them off of 6th Street so that people can enjoy themselves and have a good time. What's something about downtown policing that most people don't realize?
Not only are you policing, but you also have to be a tour guide. I mean, you do.
These are questions.
Yeah, a lot of questions. Where's the best, like I said earlier, where's the best place to eat? I'm real opinionated about that, so I'll give my opinion about that. You have to be a tour guide. You have to be a representative of Austin because a lot of people don't realize, when you become a officer downtown, that when they see the officers, these are the first officers that they'll probably see, maybe in the States, maybe in Texas. So what you say or what you do is going to be a representation of not only APD, not only Texas, not only even like the United States, but just a representation of yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that officers do a great job in realizing that downtown, and I mean, they do a bang up job. One thing that we all have gripes within the job and stuff like that, but I think that at the end of the day, I will say that the officers that work downtown, well, the officers in general, but I'll say downtown because I love downtown.
Yeah.
Um, they're some of the best officers to deal with just in general, because like I said, they're just the nicest people.
Yeah.
But then they're able to turn it on if something happens and someone's safety is threatened.
Yeah.
And then they're able to go back and be the nicest people, give photos, give people directions, and
Yeah.
just be a steward of the city.
Yeah. No, those are real good points. So what do you specifically enjoy most about working downtown?
I enjoy seeing Austin grow. I enjoy the growth of it. I enjoy being part of the growth of Austin. I enjoy seeing people come to Austin, just kind of bright-eyed, just in awe about what's going on, and then they come to us and they ask us questions, and then we're able to kind of almost dictate their vacation.
Yeah.
Because they're taking our recommendations. And I find that really, really nice and really powerful, but also being able to make people's day.
Yeah.
Obviously we're down there for the purpose is to make sure everyone's safe. But at the end of the day too, the offices downtown are almost tourist attractions.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate the work that we do and the stuff that we provide for downtown. I just enjoy making people have the best trip they can for Austin because I love the city.
Yeah.
And I want people to, if they're here for 2 days, at least try to experience some of the joy and love I have for the city.
Yeah.
So I try my best.
Just being a true ambassador for the city.
An ambassador for the city of Austin, sir.
So on the flip side of that, what's the hardest part about your job or the position you're in right now?
It's a learning curve. There's a lot to learn. Sometimes you feel like you're getting fed, water with the fire hose, and that's okay. And sometimes the hardest part too is not being able to solve something to the fullest of your capability, depending on what the situation is. That part's hard. But on the flip side, the reward is always being able to make sure that the victims have some type of solace behind what happened. So
yeah.
So I mean, you're getting fed with the fire hose, but at the end of the day, it's all worth it.
Yeah. Now those are great points, good information. We appreciate all that information. So for the last segment of this podcast, of this episode, we're gonna do a rapid fire segment, right? I'm just gonna spit out 15 questions at you, in about a sentence or less. Give us a response to that question.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
Or less. Okay.
Sentence or less.
Let's do it.
15 questions is coming out at you, rapid fire.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready?
Okay.
Here we go. Most common item stolen downtown.
Right now, cell phones. Don't put them in your back pocket.
Best anti-theft tip in one sentence.
Don't put it in your back pocket.
One thing everyone should do before going out.
Make sure you and your friends are in a position where you're able to communicate and watch each other to make sure that this is more than a sentence. Watch each other to make sure that everyone is safe and that everyone will get home safe at the end of the night.
So have a plan.
Have a plan.
Good. Busiest night of the week.
You'll be surprised. Sometimes it's Thursday, but typically Saturdays.
Most common call you respond to downtown.
Depends on the day, but we'll say fights.
Fights. Well, fair enough.
Yeah.
Bar close time. 2 a.m. One thing bar goers should never leave unattended.
Their cell phone or wallet.
Yeah. I'm going to piggyback off that and just say your drink, right?
Oh, yeah.
Those are good points, though.
Yeah.
Cell phone, wallet, and drink. Please never leave your drink unattended.
Never leave your drink.
One thing you should always have on you.
Your cell phone.
That's a lot of cell
Yeah, a
phone.
lot of cell phones going on.
If your phone gets stolen, 911 or 311?
Depending on the situation, right then and there, 911. A day later, 311.
Perfect. One place you have to visit when you come downtown. Now, these are getting personal opinions here, so one place you have to visit when you come downtown. For those that are watching and have never been here before.
It's not downtown. It's across the river. But I say go to Terry Black's, have the barbecue there. Might as well get the Texas experience first, and then come back downtown.
It had to be barbecue.
It had to be barbecue.
One thing you have to always remind visitors.
Just to be careful. Just be aware of your surroundings.
Okay. I'm going to piggyback off that and to say you can't walk around with alcohol downtown.
You cannot. It's not Bourbon Street.
Yeah. Some wrong place.
Yeah, not the wrong Bourbon Street. I'm not throwing shots at Bourbon Street, but it's not Bourbon Street.
Just a reminder. What to eat at 2 a.m. downtown?
They have a lot of good food trucks. They have a good taco spot off of Trinity and 6th. I forget what it's called. That one's pretty good. And then they have 24 Diner, which is pretty good.
Hmm.
I'll just say a food truck. Try any food truck, honestly.
Food trucks.
Yeah, you'll be surprised. They're fantastic.
And pizza. Lots of pizza.
Oh yeah, pizza. Stoney's Pizza is pretty good. Shout out to Stoney's Pizza.
A phrase you wish people would stop using.
That's a good question. Actually,
I mean, I know one right off the top of my head. You got two guys coming in and he's like, he did it. Remember that one? Or you go in a restaurant and someone always like, he did it.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, that part. Yeah, it's always it's like, oh, don't arrest me. It's like I was just literally walking in the restaurant to use the restroom, sir. I didn't.
So stop using that.
Yeah, there's no intention there. I just want to use the restroom.
One thing you wish people would stop doing on 6th Street.
Fighting.
Let's
make this world a peaceful place.
Hey, let's make it nice. Also, walking barefoot. Please don't walk barefoot downtown. Like, you see it all the time. You may not realize you're walking barefoot until the next day when you look down at your feet.
Yeah.
But please don't walk barefoot downtown.
I'll be honest. I walk barefoot, but not downtown. I like the ground. I like to be in grass, be one with nature. But yeah, downtown's probably not the spot for that.
Last one. One thing you want people to know about officers downtown?
I want people to understand that the officers downtown, and this is not a sentence, but this will be a paragraph. The officers downtown, I want to say, are some of the nicest people you ever meet. And if you ever have any questions, they're more than willing to accommodate you with whatever question you have. So never be afraid to come up to an officer. Always go up to an officer and tell them, what you need, whatever you want to talk about, and they're more than willing to accommodate you.
Great. Well, big thanks to Detective Sean Cole-Winston joining us here today. We thank you for your time. We want to thank you and your team for all that you guys do downtown. And aside from DARRT, we also want to thank our DTEC patrol shifts that are down there, our public order team, kind of a newer team, but they're doing a tremendous job downtown. So collectively, to all you guys, thank you for keeping our visitors safe, our community members safe, and everything that you guys do downtown.
Thank you very much, sir.
For our listeners, thank you for joining us today. For more information about community events with the Austin Police Department, safety tips, news releases, follow us on social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and X as the Austin Police Department. We hope this conversation provides you with the resources that help everyone keep Austin safe.